I first met the Beatles in 1962. I wasn't terribly impressed with the first stuff they did. I couldn't make out the sound, it was something I hadn't heard before. So I looked at these four guys and thought, well, none of them shines as being above all the others, and I had to make up my mind, in my silly mind, who the lead singer was going to be. Suddenly I realised I would take them as they were, as a group. The hell with the lead singer. They would be singing together.
All four of the Beatles could sing lead on a song, and each had their own strength that when combined made the whole greater than the sum of the parts. Their fabulous vocal blend were critical. Their voices just go really well together, and they knew how to use that to best advantage. McCartney was a tenor, Lennon a high baritone, Harrison a tender baritone on the high side, and Ringo was the low baritone. In all of their three-part harmonies, it was George who carried the low parts, with Lennon in the middle and McCartney on top. As for vocal ranges, McCartney could go the highest, going up to G5 and twist and shout. He often sang between C4 and A4 because it was comfortable range for him. Paul McCartney, technically the strongest singer of the group and certainly the most developed at the beginning of their career. A tenor, his voice has shown many different colors and effects, ranging from very relaxed and smooth, like in Yesterday, to borderline heavy metal screaming in Helter Skelter, very much influenced by Little Richard. His exact vocal range is widely debated, but is generally acknowledged to have sung pitches ranging over 4 octaves. While he has turned in some phenomenal performances in his heyday, his singing these days is not as strong. Age has taken its toll, and his voice sounds very tired these days. Still, his magnificent career speaks volumes of his talent. John Lennon was not quite as technically minded as McCartney. John was an excellent singer in his own right, with a similarly wide range. Likely, a high baritone, his voice sit lower than McCartney's when singing harmonies, and their voices harmonized together extremely effectively. As opposed to McCartney's smoother style of singing, John was more reckless with his voice, like in Twist and Shout. He performed Twist and Shout when he had a cold, shredding his voice after one take. His voice is perhaps more distinctive than that of Paul's, with his Liverpool accent influencing his vocal placement, resulting in a slightly more nasal sound. Wonderfully emotive, his singing is direct and was a key factor in his solo career. Much like his songwriting, George Harrison's voice developed late in the Beatles' career and is best seen in his solo career. However, his voice sitting somewhere between Lennon and McCartney in terms of type has its moments on their later albums, like in Something. His voice doesn't usually exhibit a rasp, showcased by the previous two, but his work on ballads is lovely, clearly untrained, but with a natural musicality. He wisely built much of his solo career around songs like That, My Sweet Lord, showcasing his voice at its best. A great talent, sadly repressed by the more prominent songwriters of the group. Ringo Starr, probably the lowest voice of the group, technically the most limited in terms of range, but perhaps the most lovably idiosyncratic. Can you imagine anyone else singing Octopus's Garden? He also provided lead vocals on some more relaxed tunes, such as Yellow Submarine, often the first Beatles song most people hear. His thick Liverpudlian accent is quite prominent on all of his performances, lending him a distinctive cadence. While not as experimental with his voice as the other three, he knows what works for him and is still singing well in his 80s. A lovable, relaxing voice that served him well during his solo career. They all had character and strength when they sang. Technically Paul was probably the best, but that really counts for little in rock and roll, which is full of genius singers who technically blow. John really knew how to write for his own voice. He sounds so good singing his own songs. Generally, John and Paul especially are two first-class rock singers who sound great singing ballads, pop, folk, country or rock. George had a lovely voice once he developed it, and Ringo has a lot of oomph and character and joyousness. In all, the Beatles had a perfect combination of a high rounder tone, snarling mid-range, and drony lower mid that blended beautifully. The thing that made the Beatles so great was their ability to work together in such a way that all of their best qualities appeared in their music. John, Paul, George and Ringo are very well matched in singing ability and tone, and if it were any other way, the Beatles would have been far less than they were.
Hello. That was Ringo, folks.
Well, what can I say?
And goodbye to all of them. Well, this is Ringo. Everyone seems to have said everything here, so I'll just sign off by saying cheerio and best of luck from the Beatles.